We have Lisa from Maryland. Hey, Lisa, welcome to our call today.
Hi, thank you.
So tell me a little about you and what your goals are. So what do you do for a living now?
So I'm a registered nurse and have been for almost 20 years now. It's been my only job ever as a nurse, but I realized that when I turned 40 that my life's not going to change by working more hours as far as my lifestyle that I want to have. So I wanted to find somebody that could help coach me in the right direction.
You know, that is really smart. A lot of people, I think, don't take the time to think about that. Tell me more about that. You said I can't. You said I can't really work more hours to get the kind of life that I want to get. What does that mean specifically?
So if I take an extra shift or two a week, it's only going to give me, another 1,000 or so. It's not going to give me the flexibility to spend more time with my family or, buy a second house or anything that's, above and beyond that shift. And I've found myself in like a constant circle of working more shifts, but it really doesn't get me very far. So I'm hoping for some coaching and tips on how to build a better life for my family and see where it can go from there.
Well, I think that's really smart of you to be thinking about that. I don't, again, realizing that you can trade your time for money, which is what employees do, but you can't trade your time for wealth, right?
Right.
And my question, I guess, what I want to ask you out of the gates is, because this is going to lead me to make sure that you have a solid foundation in investing, is why is that important to you?
I've had a few patients recently in the hospital that were nurses, and they thought that they'd have time to enjoy their life when they retired, but that didn't happen. They got sick younger, and they both told me, enjoy your life now. You never know what's going to happen in your family. And so I just decided I needed to make a change before, life, because time goes so fast. So it kind of pushed me on.
So many people hear what you hear and don't make the decision that you are making. So I'm proud of you for that. You're doing a really great job. You got your head in the right direction. You're thinking there. And my job now is to make sure that we keep your mind right and your habits right. Right out of the gate, since you're starting really fresh, right? You don't really have any experience as an investor, right?
Correct.
So you're saying and by the way, how long ago did you hear from those patients? How long has that been stirring inside of you?
I'd say about 6 months, and I started Googling to try to find classes or coaches for somebody that could help me go back to school is essentially what I was looking for, because I knew I couldn't learn it all on my own and do
Right.
well at it. I could probably do a crappy job at it, but I wanted to do it well.
Yeah. I'll tell you, as a coach, I hear a lot of people that give me a lot of excuses why they can't get started or what, they want to get started. They don't exactly know why, but they want to make more money. It sounds like you have yourself really dialed into what you want to achieve. What is a number that you need to achieve to kind of, do you have a thought there? Like, how much do I want to earn my first year? Do you kind of have that in your head?
I do. My plan is that I do want to do 2 flips and earn 100,000 in my first year, and then start to scale back my RN work and focus solely on this.
Fantastic. And just so I have some clarity on that, for you, you're going to keep working, make that money. How will that change your life?
Oh my goodness, I'll be able to move my time around to spend more time with my kids. I want to be able to, help them pay for their college and help them pay for things that I couldn't because, I was almost living paycheck to paycheck. So I'm hoping that, more vacations, more family time, and just being able to enjoy life more.
So when you are building a real estate investing business or going for anything great in life, it doesn't come easy. And it's only for the people that have a strong, serious desire. My question is, what does life look like for you if you don't achieve those things? If you don't do this and go after your first 2 flips and start your foundation, what does life look like for you if you don't do it?
It looks the same as it is now, and I don't want that for the next 20 years, even though my life is great, but it's not what I envision my perfect or dream life to be. And so even though I'm still working full time, I use my days off, and even I listen to things while I'm driving, like podcasts and things. Driving, I'll take my lunch break and do some real estate stuff. I do it on my days off, and I've scheduled time. So I've put all of my extra time into this over the last 3 months. So if I can do it, anybody else can do it too.
Well, it sounds like you're an action taker, which is great. What I want to encourage you out of the gates is, and you're already doing it, is don't just be someone that takes in information, but be someone that does something with the information, right? Takes action towards your goals. Because a lot of people will listen, they'll think about it, they'll talk about it with their family, friends, and they go, they have all these big visions and dreams, but they don't ever do anything about it. And that's, as a coach, one of the most frustrating things I get is that, like, gosh, I've been thinking about this for 6 months or a year or 2 years or 4 years or 5 years. So like, oh my God, like get off, like get moving already. So I think that's great that you're definitely doing all the right things. So where do you want to focus your efforts? You mentioned wanting to fix and flip 2 houses, and right now you have 0 experience, and you are in the Maryland area, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So first thing I want you to start to think about is we want to determine what your buy box is. So your buy box, are you familiar with that term?
I am, yes.
Okay. Again, just for anyone who might be listening, the buy box is where are you going to buy your house? Where are you going to focus your efforts? What's it look like? In other words, what is the square footage of that house? What is the bedroom bath count in that house? What is the price point you're looking for? Even get as granular as where is the school district that you're looking for, and even streets you can get down to. You don't want to narrow it down too much, or you won't have enough to buy from. But I think rather than say, let me go buy a house, and you go on the internet and you start to look, it gets really overwhelming. So I think it's really important as a new investor to say, what is my ideal buy box that I want to focus on? And I want you to focus on that area. Have you had any of those thoughts yet, or have you done any research on that yet?
I have. My buy box is 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, 1,500 square feet, and no more than 200,000.
Awesome. Well, I love that you have that dialed, and that's fantastic. Actually, that's exciting for me to hear that, because you're doing the right thing. Don't be afraid to look at a 2-bedroom, 1 bath if it has more square footage, or a 3-bedroom, 1 bath if it has more square footage. If you can add a bedroom or a bath, that's always good. That's called a value add flip. So if you can do a value add flip, that's always going to be worth a lot of money as well. Does that make sense?
It does.
So when you're doing your search, just make sure that you don't narrow it down and say, well, it only has 1 bath. Forget it. I don't want that. I think it's important that you keep your options open. What's your square footage you said? Do you have a square footage ideal?
1,500.
Beautiful. We used to keep a model that we don't go below 1,000 square feet. And every time I broke that, I've struggled to sell that house. So that's always been a challenge over the years. But yeah, keep it around that. That's a great place to start. Do you know where you're going to find those houses yet? Have you started with that process?
I have started, although I've spent most of my time creating my LLC, which is what's kept me busy for the past couple months. But
Sure.
I've started to look, and I actually did have a question for you.
Go ahead.
The area that I live in is very small as far as population, and the houses get sold fast. And
Yep.
so there's not very much volume.
Mhm.
So to get a private money lender to lend to me, would it be better to go farther out to the next town, or kind of stay local? That way it's close to me.
So you're asking about location of a house and then private money lender. Why is there a distinction between the two? I guess I'm curious what that means.
I think I had read somewhere that they want you to be within like 10 minutes of your house for your
No.
first fix and flip.
No.
Okay.
So let's talk about that. So a private lender is that you're talking about a private lender. So you can borrow money from either a hard money lender, right?
Maybe it was the hard money lender. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily true either. They base it on a lot of other factors, not just location of you. You're saying the location of you versus the location of the house, right?
Correct.
Yeah, no, take that off the table.
Okay,
That doesn't come into play at all. I mean, you have to be in the same country. They want that. They prefer you to be in the same state, right? That's probably a better idea, but I think it depends on the lender. In talking about private lenders, as you mentioned that term, are you familiar with what a private lender is versus a hard money lender?
So a private money lender would be like somebody you know, or like a friend, family member, or something like that. And
Sure.
hard money is just some big company somewhere, or somewhere
Sure.
that deals with your credit.
Correct. Yes. So say that part about the credit again.
Wouldn't they base it off of your credit, your business credit?
It's a factor. It's not the factor, but it's a factor. Yeah. If you have a 400 credit score and you were bankrupt last week, they don't want to loan money to you. But if you have a challenging credit score, they'll just charge you more interest and more points to cover themselves, and they may loan you less money. But a hard money lender bases it a lot on the property itself. And you're right. It's usually a group of people. It could be a small group of people that pool their money together and they loan to investors at a higher risk. And they'll loan money usually, 80%, 90% of the purchase price and up to 100% of the renovation cost. It just depends on the lender. Every lender has a different criteria by which they lend on and different underwriting. And some are looser than others. Some you pay more than others. You really just have to do your homework on that. I want to talk to you, if you don't mind, about the private lender sector, because I have a feeling that you're around people that I'd like to steer you in this direction, because this is the direction that Amber and I started after our first 2 flips. Gosh, back in 2008, 2009, 2008, we had 2 houses under contract. And all of a sudden, if you remember 2008, the world crashed, right? And the banks all stopped lending. And they came to me and said, we can't give you money. I'm like, huh? I have 2 houses under contract. And it forced us to develop our private lender base. And I'm going to encourage you to start thinking about your private lender base. Do you mind if I give you some tips on how to get that going?
Absolutely.
So a private lender base, again, is a handful of people that will loan you money on the property. They are not necessarily big savvy investors. They've got 100, 200 grand laying around, 50 grand laying around. They've got money sitting around in a savings account, in an IRA account, in a former 401k they had from a former employer. And these are things that they can use, if done correctly, to loan you money. And you can pay them 10, 12% returns on that money. So it's very attractive. But you'll have to educate people on what it is. They're usually not aware that they can loan people money. So there's a packet that I can send you that you have access to now, actually. There's a packet that we have that we send out to private lenders. And it's very simple, 7 or 8 pages. And it just kind of explains what the private lender program is all about, why they're protected, how they get protected. And then I send out, and the biggest thing I do is that I never ask them for money. I always say, I'm going to send this to you, and I'd like you to pass it on to anybody you know that might want to get double-digit returns on their money. And the reason I do that is because I found that if I ask somebody directly, they almost always say no, because we're programmed to say no.
Yeah.
So I always think about when you walk through a mall and somebody says, you want to try this perfume? What do you say? No, good. They could say, listen, I want to give you a bar of gold. No, thanks. We're so programmed to say it. We're just like, nah, I don't want that. And so we walk away. So if I say to somebody, hey, listen, I'd like to ask you, do you know anybody else? I did that intentionally on my first time I did that. And I found that people would call me and go, so what about me? And I'd say, I don't know. What about you? Right? I kind of just say, I guess I hadn't thought of you. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And what I would tell you as a brand new investor is just be open with them and say, look, I am starting my investment journey. I have not done a deal yet, but you know me or you know of me, and we are going to do this, this, and this. And I'm looking to have a private lender on my property. You're protected by a mortgage. You're protected by a promissory note. You're also protected by insurance. So you're named as additional insured on the insurance. And you're protected by the property itself, because you really can't lose any money on this thing unless I don't have insurance, or it have to be really bad. But you're not tied to my profits. You get, let's say it's 10% you start out with, or 12%. That's a going rate right now, and you're going to get that money on an annual APR, so 12% APR. Annual percentage rate. So it's not 12% for the whole thing. It's if you borrow for 6 months and you're going to pay the 12% for 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's what you do. So if you talk to those folks and let them know that that's what you're going to pay, and then say, do you mind if I come back to you as soon as I have a property under contract? Because what I want you to do is I want you to start planting the seeds now, instead of, what do they say? Dig your well before you're thirsty.
Hmm.
right? So if you're digging your well before you're thirsty, now when you have a deal come up, you can go get that money. And that money will be given to you much quicker. It's much cleaner. And here's the cool part. You can borrow 100% of purchase price and 100% of the renovation costs. Now, again, they have to agree to that term, but all of our private lenders do. And so that way it'll enable you not to have any cash flow going out of your pocket while you're doing this. You don't have to worry about cash.
So the term of what you borrow is 6 months, no matter if you get it done in 3, or that way they make money too.
Yes, my term, what I set up, again, private lending, you can set up whatever you want to set up. It's all about negotiation, what everybody's happy doing. I do a maximum 1-year note, and then I only pay for the time I borrow it. So if I borrow $100,000 at 12%, that would cost me $12,000 for the year. If I only use it for 6 months, I get $6,000. And you can also negotiate with a private lender to not pay interest payments until it's all done. Just pay them back a lump sum when it's done to help you with cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all things that you can negotiate that I don't think a lot of people aren't aware that when you're funding a deal, there's so many different ways to fund a deal. All kinds of ways to fund it. But I find that private money is the best because that's a reoccurring source of money. And you always have it because as soon as you're done and they have a good experience, they're going to want to come back for more. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So they want to reinvest with you and you start to build that relationship. And then once you have one, that will spiral into somebody else because now you have someone that can give you a recommendation letter, right? This person's been great to me. And you start to build your private lender base. So as you're building a machine that can flip 2, 3, 4 houses a year, I want you to be thinking about that early on. I know it's a little early to talk about it, but it's never too early to prepare your money, if that makes sense. So I know that was a long answer to you saying, do I have to live close to my flip? But I think it's important that you understand that you don't have to live close to it. Your private money lender can be any place in the country, and you can get them set up with that. So does that good advice for you?
It is. Thank you.
So make a list of people. I would say start making a list of people. Make 20 people. Just make a list of people that you think either have money or are around people that have money. And you're also very surprised. The ones who dress flashy and look flashy sometimes don't have anything. Mm-hmm. Amber and I'll never forget one time doing a live workshop, and we had a guy that applied to work with us, and in private conversations found out he was a surgeon. His salary was $700,000 a year, mm-hmm. dead broke, maxed out with credit, and had like a 600 credit or 500 credit score, horrible credit score. And we're like, how is that possible? Well, he did. So you never know. And then you find somebody who's maybe a garbage person. You think, what are they going to make? Well, all of a sudden they're great. They have lots of money because they've been saving or they inherited money over the years. So never guess who you think has money. Just sort of write those names down and then send the packet out. And then just simply follow up with them and say, hey, what if you got my packet? You have a chance to read it? Listen, if you know anybody, will you let me know? Great. Hey, but when I have a house, could I call you and just see if there's any interest of people that you might know?
And you email it to them or mail?
So great question. I like to make them feel important, and I will Federal Express it to them. Right? Because you can throw mail aside. Nobody throws away a Federal Express package, right? Or a UPS, priority, however you want to get it to them. But however you want to get to them, that's a great question you asked, Lisa. Just I would make sure that you make them feel like it's really important. And when you put your packet together, have it bound professionally. Go to like a Kinko's or one of those. Have a nice binding on the side. Have a cover on it, and make it look good. Spend a little bit of time doing that, and people will be like, "Oh, she's serious about her business." Yeah. And the more you act like a real estate investor, the more you become a real estate investor. Make sense?
It does.
Cool. All right. So there's that. Ask me another question. We got a few minutes. Talk to me. Hopefully that was helpful to you. What else can I answer for you?
What would you say is your best experience with helping people for their first flip? Like, should they focus on anything other than what I was focusing on, like the 3-bedroom, 1-bath, or do you get a smaller flip first, or you start larger, or I just want to be successful my first time. So I'm trying to look at all the factors.
That's a great question. I think that what we just talked about, I'm going to focus on a home that is going to fit the most amount of people, which is a first-time home buyer home.
Okay.
That's where I want to find. That's your biggest buyer's pool. That buyer's pool never goes away. A first-time home buyer's pool is there. I don't care if the interest rate is 18%. My brother bought his first house at 18.5% in Colorado back in the 70s or early 80s. I'm sorry, early 80s. And he still bought it because people that want their first home, they don't ask, what's the interest rate? They say, how much is the payment?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what they're concerned about. So that's what I want you to focus on as first-time homebuyer, because they are looking for how much can I afford the payment to be. You and I might be a little more experienced and say, gosh, I'm looking for a good interest rate. They're like, can I just get into my first house? So focus on first-time homebuyers and making that home irresistible to them without going over budget on your flip. So the biggest, what I think I hear you asking too is, I want to be successful in my flip. How do I not screw it up?
Mm-hmm.
One, buy the house cheap enough. That's number one. You have to buy the house cheap enough so you have room to make improvements and make profit. A lot of new people sometimes buy a house and have all the room they need to do renovations. They forget to include their profit and their holding costs and everything that you need to be successful. So you have to make sure you're buying that house. Usually it's 50 cents on the dollar to 60 cents on the dollar from what the ARV is, or the after repair value. But so the equation, right? The equation to this is the ARV, MAO, what you have to offer, the most you should offer on the house. It stands for maximum allowable offer, equals the ARV, or the after repair value, what will be worth when you're done, times 60 to 70% minus your repair costs. That will give you a number that you should never go over when you're buying your first house. Okay. So that's number one, is buy the house cheap enough. Number two, manage those renovations. Manage the renovations to stay in budget. Make the house look amazing, but don't go over budget. So put money where you get money back. Everything on a flip needs to come down to this. If I invest $1, can I get $1.50 back? So in other words, if you say, well, I want to put new gutters on the house, that will never get return on investment for you. You might like new gutters. Well, let them do that. That's a first-time home buyer thing. Let them do that. Or, gosh, I want to put this expensive siding on the house that I've always seen. It's really efficient. Doesn't matter. They don't care about that. They care what it looks like. You know, if the furnace works and it's workable, keep it in the house. Well, I want to put a new efficient furnace in the house. Odds are you're not going to get any more money for that. But do you know where you make the most money? There's two areas of the house. What are they?
Kitchens and bathrooms.
Boom. Kitchens and bathrooms, right? That's where you make your most money. So you put your money into there. How do you make them look even better? Well, do things like add a backsplash. I see a lot of folks that do their first deal and they don't put a great backsplash. It'll cost you $400 or $500 to put a beautiful sparkling backsplash in a house, in the kitchen. Tile. Absolutely tile. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's sheetrock and there's tile. So tile the backsplash. Thank you. I should have clarified that.
It could be that sticker stuff.
Yeah. And the first few flips we did that, but that was back, that was 20 years ago. So I would highly recommend that you put tile as a backsplash. That's one. Look for some upgraded faucets. Look a little fancier. Maybe that's where you spend a little bit of money on the lights in the kitchen. Instead of spending $50 on a prepackaged light, put some can lights in, or put some decorative chandeliers if you have a room. But again, don't go crazy. You want to find something that gives the feel. Like you said, what is the ARV in the area you're looking in?
It's about it's about $200,000 to $300,000 for a first time home buyer house.
We'll say it's $300,000 for argument's sake. Get fixtures that would go in a $500,000 house. Right? It's only going to cost you $100, $200 more, and it makes the house look so much more grand. And same with the bathroom. Like, just make the bathroom look nice. Make the tile look great. Tile the surround in the shower. You can buy a insert. Sure, you could do that. And people think they're saving money. That's old school flipping. Old school flipping is, putting it, what do they call that? Putting, lipstick on a pig, right? Don't do that. Like, make the house look great, but don't go over budget. So if you buy it right, you manage the renovation, you make the house look great, it'll sell like crazy. It'll fly off the charts, or fly off the for sale list. So you'll sell them quick.
We're not trying to do HGTV shows.
Correct. We are not trying to do that. That's correct. Yes. Yeah, that's very smart to say, because so many people think that that's where they make their money, is make their house look beautiful. I was just coaching somebody who said, but I made the house look beautiful. They also made $3,000 in their first flip. That's not what you want to make. She said, well, the house looked great. I said, but your profits didn't. So you have to stay focused on profits during this phase of your business, during every phase of your business, because that's what you're in it for. Because for you, what does profits get you?
It gets me to not have a job.
And how important is that to you?
Very.
Okay. And again, I want to encourage you to say, what does life look like if you don't do this?
Can't
Tell me what life would look like without it. But like really, like 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, you've put as much money as you can possibly put, you've worked your fingers to the bone. What does life look like and feel like for you in 10 years if you don't do this?
So in 10 years, if I don't make any changes, I'll still be working 3 12-hour shifts at the hospital, super tired when I get home. My days off, I want to sleep. And my kids are going to be in their 20s in 10 years. And so I want to be able to spend time with them. I'm sure they're going to spread out all over the country. And I'd like to be able to have more freedom and flexibility to be able to work online and just manage my properties from wherever I'm at.
How bad does it feel if you don't have that? If you have to work 3 12-hour shifts and you don't have enough money saved aside, so you don't have the freedom and you have to keep working and you have to miss those moments? What's that feel like to you?
Oh, it's terrible. That's why I'm moving forward so quickly and looking for people like you to help me out to do it.
Well, I am thrilled to be able to do it. I want to continue these conversations and see how we can do it. I want you to remember what you just told me when it gets hard, because it's going to get hard. And as it gets hard in this business, anything we do in life worth anything was never easy to achieve. And as it gets hard, I want you to think to yourself, there's 2 kinds of hard. There's the hard I'm going to do to get through this, or there's the hard I'm going to have to look back in 10 years and realize I didn't do it. Which hard do you want to choose? Choose your hard. And I think if you use that as motivation every day, you will never, ever give up. I can just tell by talking to you, you're not that person. And people that are watching this are going to say, yeah, I want to be like her. I want to be like Lisa. So you just got to have that in you to say, I don't want that to happen to me in 10 years. I don't want to tell my kids I can't be with them in 10 years. I can't travel with them. I can't go see them. I can't go see my grandbabies. Because why? I didn't pay the price 10 years ago? You don't want to live like that, do you?
Nope.
Yeah. And you're not gonna. Cool. All right. Well, listen, our time is up. I appreciate you being here. Keep me informed on your journey. I'm sure we're going to talk again. I want to know how you're making out.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa.